Hey everyone, I'm back and I bought all the books. I just got back from my little road trip in England with my mum, and I feel like I haven't been home in like forever because I spent the whole of summer, so July and August, in our family home. I think I came back for like 3 or 4 days here and there, but when I came back at the beginning of September, I stayed home for like 4 days and then left on that road trip with my mum. If you've been reading my blog or watching my videos for years, I love doing road trips in the UK, whether it's with my mum or with my husband. This time it was with my mum, so we went away for a week and I purchased all the books. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 books, which is insane and really heavy. I felt like this would be a great video to come back because a lot of you said that you wanted more book content for me, which makes me super happy. I'm a little bit behind on my reading goals for the year. I think I'm 1 or 2 books behind, so I really need to catch up. But yeah, I'm also thinking about starting a book club next year, so starting January, where we would read a different book each month of the year. It's something that I feel very passionate about. So I want to have your feedback on that. If you have any name suggestions, if you want to see it on Facebook, on Instagram, if you want me to create a group on Goodreads, which I've never done, I feel like the best way to do would be to announce the book in a video and on Instagram, and then at the end of the month or the beginning of the next month, maybe do a live on YouTube or Instagram, which is something that I've never done and it sounds really scary, but I feel like that would be a great place to have some conversation about books. But anyway, let's start with the book haul because we have a ton of book to go through. So the first book that I got is from Haig, which I read his book The Humans back when we were in Tenerife, so in June. And the reason I got this one is because it has one of those great little stickers that says buy one get one half price. I wasn't really interested in this one, but because I bought another book, I figured out, you know, get a book for half the price. I really enjoyed The Humans, so hopefully I will enjoy this one. I have no idea what it is about or if people like it or not, but we'll see. I don't think I'll get to it really quickly, but it's nice to have in my to-read shelves. The next one that I got is a business book, and I feel like I haven't bought a business books in years. Like I used to buy them when I was living in England, when I did my lower sixth form, so back 10 years ago. And I read Girl Boss when it came out, but I don't really think it is a business book. This one is a straight-on business book. It's what they don't teach you at Harvard Business School. So this is the closest that I'll ever get to Harvard. So I figured out, since I'm running 4 businesses and I haven't studied business apart from a year in lower sixth form, this might be interesting and I might learn a thing or two along the way. The next one that I picked up, I started reading, I think I read like 15 pages, yes, 16, and I was just horrified. We went to this beautiful place that is called Camber. It's near Rye in I believe it's East Sussex. It's right next to the Kent. And we went to this beautiful hotel called the Gallivant, which is right next to a beautiful wild beach. Like we don't really have any left in Belgium. We have a few, but it's not that beautiful and not that big. And it was just a relaxing 3 days, just going to do yoga on the beach and taking walks and just cozying up by the fire with a good book, which is what I did with this book. And I only read 16 pages of it because I was such in a good mood and such a chill out mood that I didn't want to stress myself out, and this really stressed me out. This is The Uninhabitable Earth by Wallace Wells. This is a book that I've seen in every single bookshop window when we were in England. So I believe it's either a bestseller or on its way to become one. It's by a journalist that I believe writes for The New Yorker. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what he's doing as his main job. And I remember reading an article from him a couple of years ago that was traumatizing about climate change and the planet, and this is basically the book version of that. it has a lot of data about the earth and climate change and what we are doing wrong and killing this planet. So this is very horrifying, but I feel like it's something that I'm really interested in and really passionate about. And if I can learn a thing or two along the way to reduce waste and reduce pollution on my level, I'm all for it. So I'll get to it really soon, but give me a few more days, week, just to still surf on that really cool vibe that I got in Canberra, and then we'll get back to serious, horrifying business. The next book that I picked up, I've never heard of. I actually purchased it on the very first day when we were in Ashford. I've never seen it, never heard anything about it, but it really spoke to me. This is by Marianne. It's called Help Me, How Self-Help Has Not Changed My Life. And that really resonated with me because I believe it was 2017. I set myself a goal to read a ton of self-help book. I read My Miracle Morning, I read The Power, I read, all those big classic self-help books. And I started doing pretty much everything that I read about, and it nearly killed me. I was tired, I was so depressed, I was really in a bad place. And I think self-help books can be wonderful, but they can be really bad as well if you do it too much, you know what I mean? So I'm really interested to read about that because I feel like it's going to be a little bit of the story that I went through myself. So really interested in that. If any of you have read or heard about it, I would be curious to know, but that really interests me. Now I have, let me get these. I have a favorite comic book store in Brighton. Now, I don't really read comics all that much. I used to when I was a kid, and then I stopped just because I always thought, even as a kid, that they weren't good value for money because I would read them in like 15 minutes and that wasn't worth it in my opinion. But ever since then, I've changed my mind. I read Persepolis when I was a teen. I read it again last year, and then I read Mouse, which is about Second World War and Holocaust. And I really got into comic books. I read Science Tale by this author, which is Darryl Cunningham, during the summer for the Reading Rush with it, and I loved it. So I decided to buy a second one. And by the way, I will leave the store address in the description box down below. It is in Brighton. It is a tiny store, but they have comic books about everything, whether it's the classic Superman and Batman. They have things about economics, about brands, about celebrities, about cities, about life, like people's life. They have a ton of things. I went there with my husband last year, he loved it. I went with my mom this year, she loved it. So really, if you're in Brighton, check it out because it's amazing. So the first one that I got is by Darryl Cunningham, just because I loved Science Tale so much. This is Supercrash, How to Hijack the Global Economy. I don't know a lot about economy in general, so I thought this would be a good introduction. Yeah, and it seems really fun and really interesting as well. So I'm so happy. I think I'll get to this really quickly just because comic books are easy to read and really quick as well. The next book that I've seen is actually by Marjana Satrapi, who is the author of Persepolis. And I might be wrong about that, but I believe that her books are first published in French, which is my mother tongue, which explains the weird accent that I have going on. But I've never seen this book in French, which just seems unbelievable to me. So I got it in English. The thing that I usually do is that I read books in English that are published in English, and I tend to read books in French. And if I'm reading a British or an American author, I tend to go for the English version. And sometimes if it's like Russian author or someone like that, it depends if I read it in French or English, whatever comes first. So I actually have seen on the inside that this was first published in French as Embroideries in 2003. How come I've never seen that? So if you haven't heard about Marjana Satrapi or Persepolis, it's basically the story of her life growing up in Iran. And this sounds very interesting because it is all about the sex life of Iranian women. So it talks about her mom, her grandma, her aunt, her friends, the neighbors. It's really interesting because Iran is such a curious country to have a look at. It's very, very interesting to see how it has changed and evolved and went back on a certain things, went forward on others. So I'm really excited to read this. This is just tiny, so it's gonna be really quick, but I believe it's gonna be very, very interesting. Now the next book that I picked up is called Hardcore, Anxiety and Mental Health, a graphic guide to punk rock by Reid Chacellor. I'm butchering all the names in the title and basically killing the English language as I go. But anyway, I love punk rock, I love rock music, I love metal. It sounds very surprising to a lot of people, but I listen to bands like Franz Ferdinand, Blink-182, Marilyn Manson, Casabian. I just love this kind of music, and this sounds really interesting because I believe that punk rock plays a really big role in mental health. There are so many songs about depression and suicide, and I don't really see that as much in like pop or rap or hip hop. So I just decided to pick it up. I'm really curious. I have never heard about it, but it seems cool. I really like the style of the comic inside, so we'll see how this goes. The next one that I got is the last one from the comic book shop. This is The American Politics, a Graphic History by Laura Locker and Julia Scheele. Not sure how you say her name. This sounds very interesting. I'm actually really interested in American politics, even more than the ones in my own country, which is bad. But anyway, I feel like it is so fascinating because America is such a big country, a big nation. It has so much power in the global economy and global politics and just the world in general. And seeing how the last election went and how Hillary Clinton had more votes but wasn't elected president because of the politics system in America, I'm really passionate about it. So I hope to learn a lot more about this and fully understand everything going on in 2020 for the next election. Okay, the last two books. I picked this one up when we were in Haig in the bookshop, just because it sounded so interesting. It's The Secret Barrister, Stories of the Law and How It's Broken. I believe this is published anonymously. I actually read, how was that book called? It's Gonna Hurt? I think it's Gonna Hurt. The one about the NHS, which is the health care system in England. Which was very interesting. So I thought this one was kind of on the same vibe because it's all about the law, which isn't the same in Belgium as it is in the UK or the US or anywhere else in the world. So I'm really interested as well, just as much as I'm interested in politics, I'm really interested in the law as well because we see a ton of shows about laws. Like I'm currently watching How to Get Away with Murder, and it's in a law firm and it has to do with trials and stuff like that, and murder, by the way. So it's really interesting, and I'm really curious to see what this reports about how the law is broken. And last but not least, I actually didn't pick up when I was in England. I ordered it on Amazon just before I left, but I thought I would include it in this haul just because it deserves its own spot. This is Endurance, My Year in Space, A Lifetime of Discovery by Scott Kelly. So Scott Kelly is an astronaut that spent a year in the ISS. I've heard about him a couple of times, and then I watched an incredible video. I believe it was on YouTube. If I can find it, I will link it in the description box down below, where he talked about his experience in space. And we've been talking a lot about space over the summer just because it was the anniversary of the moon landing and just space exploration. It's something that I've always been very interested in. I'm not an expert by any means, but it's something that I really enjoyed hearing about and reading about. So I figured out this would be so interesting because spending a year in space must be quite something. So I'm really, really happy to start this one, hopefully very soon. So that is it for me today. I have a pile of books on the floor because yes, I just dropped my books on the floor. But anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this haul. If you have any suggestions for videos that you want to see next, I will be happy to read them either in the comments or on social media, you know how it goes. Thank you so much for tuning back in. I know that my content on YouTube has been here and there in the past few years, not months, years now. So hopefully we'll get back to a more regular scheduling. I don't want to commit to anything. I want to see where I go. I'm still figuring out where I want to take my content. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you had a great time. If you've read any interesting books, I would be happy to hear about that in the comments down below. And again, if you want to find my Instagram link or my Goodreads account or link to buy all the books or everything is gonna be on the blog or in here in the description box. So thank you so much for watching. Take care and I will see you next time. Bye everyone!